Hi friends! We just left on a very dramatic scene where, if you remember, our sweet little Ginny was having a seizure and the police guards had, Armpit, and they thought that he had actually done something wrong. And remember, they wouldn't let go of him until the mayor came and said, basically let him go. Okay. Staying low, Armpit hurried to Ginny. Drool dripped from her mouth as her body writhed and twitched. Her eyes were wide open, but they weren't seeing anything. The floor was sticky with spilled drinks and popcorn. "I'm here now, Ginny," he said softly. "I'm here now." He wiped the drool off her face and adjusted her glasses, which had fallen to one side. The people in the chairs had been cleared from the area. "Is she going to be all right?" asked the mayor. He slipped his hand below her head, then gently lifted her up off the floor. "It's okay," he whispered. He held her trembling body against his chest. "Now what?" Kara demanded. There had been some kind of disturbance out on the floor, and the waiting was driving her crazy. "There was this girl wriggling on the dance floor. We didn't know what was wrong with her. It was crazy." "You think that's crazy?" said Kara. "Or funny? That is awful." "See, she was with some big black guy," Elgenius explained, "and the cops thought that he was giving her the problem." "Oh yeah, that's really funny," said Kara. Gosh, she hated Elgenius. "It was their own fault," said Elgenius. "They paid $300 to some scalper for counterfeit tickets." He laughed. "People are so silly." "Well, where are they now?" asked Kara. "They should have the area cleaned up in about 5 or 10 minutes. You should have Rosemary do some touch-up on your hair. It looks flat." "Where are they now?" Kara asked. They were on a cot in the security area, surrounded by half a dozen security and medical personnel. Armpit still held Ginny in his arms, but her attack had subsided into tears and hiccups. The medical personnel were trained to handle injuries, but they knew very little about cerebral palsy. "She doesn't need to go to the hospital," Armpit said. "She just needs to breathe." A woman put her hand on Ginny's wrist. "I'm going to take your pulse." Ginny jerked her hand away. The mayor was also there, despite repeated suggestions by the head of security that she return to her seat and enjoy the show. Out in the arena, the crowd was calling for Kara and stomping their feet. Armpit could feel there were vibrations on the floor. "You say he came at you?" the officer in charge asked one of the officers who had handcuffed Armpit. "I was reaching for the ticket," Armpit tried to explain. "He made a threatening movement, but I was able to quickly regain control of the situation." "There was no question he was resisting arrest," said the other officer. "His friend was having a seizure," the mayor pointed out. "He only wanted to help." "Please, Mayor, it would be better for everyone if you returned to your seat. I'm not going to let you justify your actions by blaming the victim," the mayor said firmly. "Let me ask you something," she said, directing her attention to the officer. "Would the gesture have been so threatening if you weren't judging him by his appearance?" Armpit had to hand it to Cherry Lane. She was one tough lady. "Instead of persecuting the victim," the mayor went on, "you should be back out there, getting the names and phone numbers of everyone seated in that area. Somebody else may have bought 2 tickets from the same scalper." 2 more people entered the room, a gum-chewing African-American teenage girl wearing a lavender sweatsuit, followed by a 30-year-old well-dressed guy. "Who are you?" demanded the head of security. Ginny knew who she was. Her sobs instantly ceased. "I heard there's a problem with some tickets," the girl said. She sat on the cot next to Armpit and asked Ginny her name. "Ginny?" "Hi, Ginny." "Hi, Kara," said Ginny. When Armpit realized who she was, he almost couldn't believe she was sitting right next to him, her leg touching his. "Are you feeling better?" Kara asked. "Yes." "Is she going to be okay?" Kara asked Armpit. "She's fine," Armpit said, sounding a little too enthusiastic. He couldn't believe she was talking to him. "It's happened before. She just needs a little time and space." "I hear that," Kara said. "It's a madhouse out there. All those people crowded around and then they tell your tickets are no good." "My body went to red alert," said Ginny. That made Kara smile. "You seem okay now," she said. "Would you like to come backstage and watch the concert from there?" Yes. Armpit wasn't certain if Kara's invitation included him as well, but he wasn't about to be left behind. Kara led them out of security area and down a dark hallway. "Sorry I walked so slow," said Ginny. "There's no hurry," said Kara, as out in the arena the audience was stomping and clapping. So are you her nurse or something? She asked Armpit. We're just friends, that's all, he told her. He is my best friend, said Ginny. I am so sorry, Kara said. This is my friend. This is Fred, my bodyguard, said Ginny. He's here to protect me from Ginny. You think you can handle her? She's awfully dangerous. Armpit smiled at the joke, but he and everyone else knew Ginny wasn't the only one Fred was closely watching. Just doing my job, Mr. DeLeon, said Fred. They reached a flight of stairs, and Kara asked Ginny if she could make it up by herself. I just need someone to hold on to. Hold on to me, said Kara, extending her hand. Armpit was amazed by Ginny's calmness. She didn't seem one bit nervous hanging around Cara DeLeon. He, on the other hand, could hardly think straight. You gotta think, this is like a legit movie. Like, this is like meeting Taylor Swift and just being totally calm. So obviously Armpit is not. Cara led them up a flight of stairs, then through a door into the backstage area. Some people hurried towards them. These are my friends, Cara said. Ginny and Theodore, said Armpit, helping her out. We need to get them set up somewhere where they can see the show. She turned to Armpit and Ginny. David will take care of you. David wore a vest but no shirt. He had red hair, a red beard, and a red hairy chest. Tools of various sorts were attached to his belt in the many pockets of his vest. Come with me, David said, as a Hispanic woman led Cara away. We'll set you up behind the soundboard. Wait, said a very pretty woman in a short skirt and tight t-shirt. Hold on, honey. Let me get you cleaned up first. David, get them some t-shirts. The woman introduced herself as Rosemary and brought them to the makeup area. While she was helping Ginny wash up, David returned with a box of souvenir t-shirts. What color do you want? Red, said Ginny. One for him, too, said Rosemary, indicating Armpit. I'm fine, said Armpit. You're a mess. Now put on this shirt. David grabbed a couple of folding chairs and led Armpit and Ginny out to the stage. He walked close enough to the keyboard that he could have played a note. The audience, which had been yelling and stomping impatiently, suddenly stopped and applauded, glad that at least something was happening. Ginny squeezed Armpit's hand. David set up the chairs behind a large piece of electrical equipment. Don't worry, he said. You'll be invisible here. They were near one of the tower speakers, but back behind it so they wouldn't be blasted by the sound. The soundboard operator introduced himself as Terry. He wore headphones. The soundboard consisted of a panel of switches, dials, and lights. This is so the band members can hear each other. Cool, said Armpit. David returned a moment later with 2 souvenir cups filled with lemon lime soda. Oh. He hurried off just as everything went pitch dark, and the music shook the stage, nearly knocking Armpit out of his chair. Strobe lights flashed on various band members, and then a green spotlight settled on Cara DeLeon. It was hard to imagine that this is the same gum-chewing girl he just met a few minutes earlier. She was dazzlingly beautiful. Okay, and she's singing her song. The floor beneath him bounced with each beat of the drum, and he could feel the bass vibrating down to his bones. He hoped it wasn't too loud for Ginny, but she just stared at Cara DeLeon, mesmerized. The spotlight on Cara kept changing colors, and her fringed outfit seemed to shimmer and change with each new color. If the people in the audience could have come any closer, they would have not hesitated. The place was going crazy. Ginny shouted something into Armpit's ear, but he couldn't even hear her. It didn't matter. He could feel her excitement. When the song ended, they both stood up and wildly applauded. Cara looked over to them and smiled. As the concert went on, the songs changed from fast to slow, from funky to sincere, but Cara maintained a magical hold over the crowd. Even she could feel it. Normally, she'd shout out to the audience as she disappeared into the songs, but tonight was different. It was almost like the audience was part of the band. She fed off of their energy. I listen to the radio, she said. So much of what I hear is filled with anger and hatred. It's like guys think they have to be tough and cruel in order to be a man. To be a man is someone who is brave enough to love and let himself be loved. Cotton on drums pounded out a driving steady beat, and Cara ripped into the next song. The drum punctuated each line and drove it home. Armpit had heard the song before, but never with such fire behind it. Now, watching her, hearing her, seeing the passion in her eyes, it almost made him cry. The song could have been about him a couple of years ago, before he went to Camp Green Lake. Although it wasn't really Camp Green Lake that released him from his anger. It was coming home and meeting Ginny. She followed that song up with Imperfection, and he was reminded of Tatiana. He'd forgotten all about her. He was glad he ended up going up with Ginny instead, and it wasn't just because he got to be on stage. Just seeing the look on Ginny's face as she stared at Cara made him very happy. Kara started in on Damsel in Distress, and Armpit grabbed Jenny's arm and told her to listen to the words, but it was hard to pick them out. The music was too loud, the audience was screaming, and the backup singers were singing in some counterpoint harmony that kept getting in the way. So remember how he thinks she keeps saying, save me, armpit in the song? So he keeps thinking that she's singing, and he's like hearing it. Did you hear? He asked Jenny. She didn't know what he was talking about. Of course she didn't. He knew that. He knew he had to be hearing something wrong. Finally, at the very end of the song, everything slowed down. The music got real soft, and the backup singers were silent, and even the audience was hushed. Kara, under a single spotlight, seemed especially alone and vulnerable as she half sang, half whispered, "Save me, armpit, a damsel in distress." At least that's what he heard. So, Armpit asked Jenny as they stood and applauded. "I like that song," said Jenny. Kara followed with a fast-paced frying pan, during which the words seemed to shoot out of her her mouth like bullets. Armpit was amazed Kara could get all the words out. There were 3 more verses, and each seemed to be faster than the one before it. "Woo!" Kara exclaimed when the song ended, and the audience laughed and applauded. The crowd went wild. Every part of the concert was carefully planned and scripted, but Kara had never said certain things before. For once, she was having fun. She turned and waved to Ginny and her friend. Ginny waved back, but her friend looked stunned, like a deer in the headlights, meaning Armpit. The band launched into the last song. Okay, we're going to stop there. Isn't that so fun for them? Oh my gosh, I love that. What do you think might happen after the concert ends? And why do you think those tickets were counterfeit?